So you're planning a trip to Bali. Either that or you are very interested in going to the island of the gods. Well, good news for you, this is one of my favorite locations on the entire planet. So I'm going to tell you some things that I wish I knew before I visited Bali, or just some things that I think would be really helpful for you when planning your trip to Bali, Indonesia. Number one is Bali is big. It is a big island. Now it's not so big that it's like impossible to explore it and cruise around it. You can do it, but I think it would probably take 3 hours to go from the very north to the very south. But that might be longer with some traffic, which we'll get into later. And it's better to just spend your time in Bali, basing yourself off in different destinations. I'll tell you which ones I recommend later because that's really important too. But anyway, just know that Bali is really big. You can't see it and do it all in like 1 or 2 days, or you can't just stay in one location your entire time and then be able to like go out here to visit this rice field, or go out here to visit this waterfall, or here to swim with dolphins, or here to go to this beautiful coastline, all in like one area. You're gonna wanna base your time in several different areas, because Bali is bigger than you might think. And because Bali is bigger than you might think, and it's far away if you're American like me, you're gonna wanna spend a considerable amount of time in Bali. I really recommend taking up your 1 month visa on arrival that you can get. You enter the country, as long as you have a passport, you will get a 30-day visa on arrival that you can actually extend for another month. So that's also something you should know, and I wish I knew, is that you can easily extend your Bali, Indonesia visa, I guess, for a total of 2 months, 1 month on arrival, 2 months in total, and you can get this done by a visa extension service. But make sure you do this ahead of time, because it does take a little bit of time for them to help you out and get it sorted, and it can be a little bit expensive if you leave it to the last minute, because then you have to pay for an expedited service. And it's also worth noting that if you do this, you'll need to drive down to, I think it's like the customs or immigration office in Denpasar, which is a little bit further away from some of the main areas you might be wanting to stay in. And now, before I tell you where I recommend that you stay, I'll tell you maybe some areas that I wish I knew aren't the best areas to stay, at least for long term. These are going to be areas in the southwest of Bali, kind of called Kuta. This is going to be areas like Seminyak and Canggu. These are going to be more for like parties or digital nomad kind of types. We're going to want to do like remote working or kind of like vacation kind of lifestyle. If you want to get lost and explore some of the more beautiful, remote, truly authentic, unique areas of the island, I'll tell you about those areas later and how you can manage your time there. But it's okay to check out these areas, or if you want to just party or really just kind of live that digital nomad or remote worker lifestyle, these are good areas to check out or spend some time in. But I would not recommend them if you want to have, again, that truly amazing, authentic experience for the bulk of your time on the island of Bali. And also, I wish I knew a little bit more about getting around these different areas, which kind of ties into traffic and scooters, because Bali is a very popular island. It's not like a secret destination, and is becoming more and more popular, and the infrastructure isn't quite the best, especially in these really popular areas like Canggu and Seminyak in the Kuta region. So the traffic here could be really terrible. We're talking like hour-long backups on these little small roads where you're going to be shoulder-to-shoulder scooter traffic. And if you want to get around the island of Bali, I wish I knew that scooters are king. Scooters above everything else. You need to know how to ride a scooter. It's not a great idea to learn in Bali because it's very intense here. I learned in Bali because luckily my Airbnb host was nice enough to give me some scooter lessons, so I was able to, have a mentor in some more remote areas of the island to practice in. But either learn how to ride a scooter before you go to Bali, or if you want to get around, you can opt to hire a private driver. Maybe your Airbnb or like your accommodation can help you sort this out, and this would be a great way to get out of the island. And Bali is not very walker friendly. In some areas, actually like Canggu and maybe Seminyak, you can walk around, but the sidewalks are not really built for pedestrians. Or areas like Ubud, you can walk around it a little bit too, but things are going to be a little bit more spread out, and scooters are really going to be the way to go if you want that ease of life. And honestly, the more adventurous, perfect way to explore the island of Bali is to learn how to ride a scooter. So I would not be as interested in visiting Bali for long term if I did not know how to ride a scooter. And I wish I knew that before I visited. And this might go without saying for you, but not all beaches in Bali are created equal. Especially, again, I'm not trying to hate on it, but in that like Seminyak, Canggu, Kuta area, a lot of the beaches here are going to be that volcanic black sand, and they're really popular and busy, so they're going to be maybe a tad bit more dirty, just not as beautiful, like pristine white sand beaches that you can surely experience on Bali and actually some nearby areas, which we'll talk about here in a second. So just be aware, if you're staying in that area, you're not gonna have those beautiful tropical paradise beaches. You're going to visit some other areas on the island, presumably. I also wish I knew a little bit more about like how to operate and like, you know, sort of integrate myself into Balinese culture here, because the island has some different customs, not rules, but just different, you know, like cultural things that many visitors do not abide by because they're just there on a vacation and they're just treating it like a little Western hub. But in Bali, it's really important to know the religious customs. It's a Hindu island, so that being said, people can be a little bit more conservative with like showing skin in public. So it's really not polite to walk around shirtless all day. If you're going to the beach and hanging out at the beach, that's a different story. But just walking down the street, don't treat it like it's, you know, your backyard and you can just like walk around like it's a total like surfer bra. Nothing on surfers, but you get what I'm saying. Be a little bit more modest when just going through your daily life. Also, it's worth noting while walking around, you don't want to step on these beautiful little baskets on the ground that have this amazing incense smell that are going to be offerings to the Hindu gods. Actually, I would say funny enough, it's really not that funny. I thought it was gonna be like a bad omen at the time. But as soon as I stepped out of the car after getting picked up by my host, I felt a crunch on my foot and I stepped on one of those beautiful offerings. I had no idea it was there. Guys, I was tired. I was a little bit jet lagged. Give me a little bit of slack, but be really careful of these things because they are everywhere. They're beautiful. Just be careful to like treat them with respect and not like step on them like I did if you can avoid it, or run it over with your scooter if you know how to ride it. And also, while like going to restaurants and businesses and interacting with the local people, just a small cultural custom. It's not like the end of the world, but make sure to not use your left hand. This is true in a lot of Asia as well, because this hand is typically or thought to be used for like wiping your bottom. So you don't want to do that and then give someone your stinky hand if you catch my drift. So use your right hand when handing people things. And it's also important to know a little bit of like some Indonesian or Balinese sort of little phrases, because again, English is widely spoken due to the prevalence of tourism on Bali, but I do think it's really important to know some basic phrases just anywhere you go. A good starter is just terima kasih or makasih, which means thank you. So just say that and just show a little bit of like an appreciation and willingness to try and embrace some of the local culture. And now that we're talking about interacting with the locals, I need to mention some other locals, which are the monkeys, because Bali has some beautiful monkeys that you can sort of interact with at temples or in nature, or most famously at the Ubud, a sacred monkey forest sanctuary. But the monkeys in Bali are terrible. They're so terribly behaved. I think they're some of the worst behaved monkeys I've ever seen. Again, probably due to the tourism. The monkeys will steal belongings because they think they will get like a reward from the workers there to kind of like appease them. And also monkeys here, if they like are aggressive and bite you, some people have been known to get rabies. So not to scare you away from dealing with monkeys, but please be a little bit cautious. Please be aware to keep your distance and don't like go up to them like there's these cute cuddly like stray cats, or maybe stray cats aren't always cuddly, but you know what I mean. They can be a little bit of a handful. So treat them as such, and you know, just be prepared, because I was not, and we had some not great experiences with monkeys, although it was great to see them. And also, you probably already know this, but just in case you don't, be prepared, because Bali is the tropical Southeast Asian southern hemisphere, and you're gonna have lots of creepy crawlies and critters and creatures besides monkeys, and they might get into your Airbnb and accommodations, especially if there's like some gaps in the floors between like the door and the floor, or just in general. I don't know how these lizards get into your room, guys, but they will get into your room. The lizards aren't so bad, although like one did almost fall on my wife while she was showering, and that was a nice little wake-up call in the morning. But yeah, you might have to deal with some centipedes or some mosquitoes. Be careful of dengue fever. That's something else I wish I knew about. Did not get it, but if you get like bit by a mosquito, they could transmit this fever that can get you very sick. No, don't be afraid. Just be aware, guys. Just be aware and treat things as such. And while we're talking about sickness, I wish I knew about Bali belly. I did a little bit, because I'm not gonna lie, guys, I do a little bit of research before I go places, but everyone should know this, not just me. Bali belly is a phenomenon known to happen when you like maybe drink some of the local water or eat some foods or vegetables and maybe wash with the water, and you take too much of it in, and it can make your stomach really upset. We're talking really upset, like almost hospital bed in some instances if you eat too much or you have like an unhealthy, I don't know, little circumstance occur. But this did not happen to me, luckily. Just be sure to be hygienic and don't drink the tap water. So just know that. And also, this is kind of a thing in Asia, but if you don't know this, you might want to know there are usually no dividers in like the bathroom. So the shower will often be like right next to the toilet. So the water is going to spray and get everywhere. If you want to like use the bathroom while someone's showering, props to you for feeling comfortable enough to do that, but it might not be a great idea because water is going to get all over the place and all over on you and them. So just be aware of that as well. The showers are definitely different than they are in the West. And earlier before, I am not discouraging you from eating at some local food restaurants, because the local restaurants in Bali are, I would say by far, but definitely towards my favorite sort of restaurants. And these are going to be called warungs, which mean like small family owned restaurant where you can eat some delicious Balinese cuisine. And you have to eat here. These are going to be the places with amazing quality. I've never gotten Bali Belly and I've eaten at so many of them. Maybe don't eat something if it looks like it's been sitting outside in the heat for a long time, because that could just be rotten or gone bad in other ways, but besides just like the Bali Belly kind of thing. But anyway, yeah, this is also going to be a great value for money. A lot of the Western food is going to be cheaper than like your traditional cafes or restaurants, maybe in like America, Australia, England, Europe, wherever. But if you eat the Balinese food at the warungs, you can get great portions for a great price and great quality, amazing taste. And I don't know about you, but I visit a country because I want to try the local food and also get that authentic experience as well. So visit the warungs, guys. Nasi campur. Look it up, you will not regret it. Also, I was talking about earlier how Bali is sizable, it's a big island, which actually means you're gonna have some different sort of landscapes and climates. Let's first talk about the climates, because I did not know that I needed to pack like different kind of like, not outfits, but yeah, different layers just to travel like an hour or so away in some areas. Because if you go a little bit more like the north central area of Bali towards like Munduk, it's gonna be a lot colder. I was dressed for like beachy, balmy weather, staying in like the Kuta area, and then I went to Ubud, which was about the same, a little bit more humid because it's more jungly. But you go like an hour north of Ubud, and you're gonna need maybe some pants, or if not pants, at least some light layers, especially if you're traveling around on motorbike. So if you plan on traveling to some other areas of Bali, especially in the more mountainous sort of central area, you're going to want to bring some layers. And also, because it's big and you have these diverse climates, you are going to have, this is where the hype's rolling in, everybody, some of the most diverse landscapes you've ever seen before, except for America's really diverse, but it's a lot bigger. But you're gonna have things such as these beautiful rice terraces, the black volcanic sand beaches we talked about a little bit earlier, but also those beautiful white pristine beaches, which I'll tell you a little bit more about later. You're gonna have waterfalls, you're gonna have volcanoes, you're going to have, oh my gosh, just so much diverse beauty that it's gonna be so overwhelming. And this is true beauty and wonders of Bali that I knew a little bit about, but I was not prepared for how much I would fall in love with the landscape and beauty of Bali once you get out there and explore more, such as these areas. So I told you the areas where I think you should spend less time. I think if you're gonna spend a lot of time in Bali, you should spend a lot more time in the more remote areas. And I'm not talking about Ubud. Ubud is, I think it's better than Canggu. It's like the cultural sort of center. It's beautiful, but you're gonna wanna go branch off from Ubud, go north to Lovina Beach, swim with some dolphins, but stop on your way to, in Munduk, that kind of area I was talking about earlier that's cooler. You're gonna have it feels like you're a totally different island up there. You have a beautiful lake, you have these kind of like more green rolling hills, you have just some beautiful areas and views and like mountains and lakes up in that area. You can go more east, which is an area of like Sidaman, which is going to be kind of like Ubud, but probably like 50 years ago, where it's much more remote. You're gonna have beautiful green rice terraces. You can even keep on going further to Ahmed, which is the sort of like a coastal area on the east, which has beautiful beaches, but way less people. I didn't actually visit myself, but I've done my research, guys. It looks amazing. I wish I spent more time there because I didn't know better. This is why I'm making this video, because I wish I knew. I spent 1 month of my time in Bali in Canggu and 1 month in Ubud, branching out and visiting different regions. So if I was to do it over again, probably wouldn't go back to Kuta, maybe for a couple days, and I'd spend a lot more time visiting the beautiful, authentic areas I was telling you about earlier, such Munduk, Lovina, Sidaman, and actually Uluwatu, which is becoming more and more popular, but it's still a little bit more sleepy than Canggu. It's in the south area called the Bukit Peninsula, and Uluwatu has beautiful cliffs actually, and those white pristine beaches that are so gorgeous, amazing temple, and just a slower pace of life that's less congested than Canggu. So if you want that like amazing kind of like Bali beach town kind of feel without like all of that. And with the beautiful beaches and landscape, I think Uluwatu is going to be a place that you should spend more time at. And I wish I knew to spend more time at Uluwatu before going to Bali. And if you're going to be exploring the island, going out of the more touristic hubs, going to the more remote areas, it's important to know that you want to carry cash with you. Not all places are either going to have great internet or going to have the abilities to take credit card payments. So you want to carry some cash on you, which is going to be the Indonesian rupiah. You can withdraw these from ATMs, and they're in a lot of these major areas. You can find some in the remote areas too, but they're going to be a little bit more spread out, but you can definitely still withdraw money there. But if you're going on a longer sort of trip or staying in a remote area, it's better to bring, I don't know, maybe like 1 million rupiah with you, which I think is like $70 or so, just as a good like security measure for eating out or whatever else you might need to do. I also wish I knew, one, how nice and how genuinely happy the local people are. They will smile at you, they will greet you, they will be so helpful and so kind, and it will generally be infectious to you. But I also wish I knew that there's going to be not like quite scams, but lots of people, not lots, but some people hassling you, especially in the main areas. Some typical things you might notice is people trying to like convince you to go to some sort of show, or people trying to convince you to get like a taxi ride, or people trying to like sell you jewelry. A lot of those things happen in like Southeast Asia and other areas, so Bali is not immune to that, but just be aware you might have to deal with this and give people a little bit of the cold shoulder or politely say no thank you, just keep on walking. It might be a little bit disturbing at first, but you'll get used to it and it's not so bad, but just know it can happen to you. And finally, although Bali is amazing and beautiful and there's so much to see here, a lot of the sites that you might be seeing or think is associated with Bali is actually on a separate island, because keep in mind, Bali is just one island across thousands of islands of Indonesia. And there's lots of islands that are close to Bali, so they're kind of like roped in as thought of like a Bali itinerary or Bali vacation. I'm talking about islands like Nusa Penida, which have some very famous and beautiful coastlines and beautiful natural sites that I definitely think you should visit, but spend more time in Nusa Penida, and it's not going to be on the island of Bali. You're going to need to figure out how to get there, either including like a tour or like a boat and ferry ride, and figure out accommodation there. So it's going to be a little bit more complicated to see maybe all of these beautiful sites typically associated with Bali on places like Nusa Penida, Nusa Lembongan, or the Gili Islands, which are like 3 islands right near Lombok, between Lombok and Bali. So just keep in mind, everybody, there are so many sites spread across the island of Bali, and there's going to be some on even separate islands as well. And finally, I wish I knew, even more so, some of these really big popular areas in Bali are extremely overrated. I'll talk more about this in coming videos about why Bali is underrated or overrated, but some of them are just total Instagram gimmicks, and the true beauty is going to be in the more remote areas that we talked about. You can just explore and take life slow and get lost, meet some local people. That is the true beauty of Bali, everybody. Now that I've told you all these things I wish I knew, I will be making in the near future ultimate like Bali travel itinerary, because this might be overwhelming now that I told you all of this. Are you doing more research and hearing about the beautiful places? How should you get there? What should you do in these places? Stay tuned, because that will be coming out very soon, telling you the best possible way you can experience Bali in 2 weeks or a month or something like that. So thanks for watching, everybody. Do you disagree with some of my things I wish I knew? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace.